All right, welcome everybody to the second episode of 2021 of Archaeology After Dark. My guest today is the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Sullivan. Matt, thanks for being here.
What's up, man? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as Big Dan said, I'm the man, the myth, the legend. Not really. My name is Matt Sullivan. I'm originally from the great state of Mississippi. Currently reside here in the state of Alabama, down in Auburn. A background, just a little quick background. I went to Mississippi State. Just got my undergrad in anthropology, just basic southeastern archaeology. Also specialized in biological anthropology and some forensics work. And I've been doing CRM for about, oh man, it will be 6 years on February 1st. It'll be 6 years total. So I've worked in CRM here in the Southeast for, like I said, about 6 years now. Multiple different companies. Right now, I'm stuck with one private company here in the state of Alabama, and we work all throughout the Southeast, including Mississippi, Alabama. I've done work in Georgia, Louisiana, Tennessee, and yeah, short little background. So.
All right, so talking about archaeological work or cultural resource management here in the state of Alabama, where do you think is a good place to start?
To start for CRM?
Yeah.
What I would do is so really the best place to start is like when you're kind of in your undergraduate mode or you're kind of in that realm, especially if that's something you want to do as a career. So if you want to do CRM like that, and to me, even if you're going to go back and get your master's later, jump in and do CRM either during like summers, like in between breaks, or do it after. But anyways, like to really get a connection is maybe find a great school that has like people who have either done CRM in the past or have maybe a CRM kind of like pathway. Now, I don't really know of like I don't really know of like a school that has something similar to like co-op programs, like how engineering does, so, but there are definitely schools, obviously in the state of Alabama, whether it's University of Alabama or UAB. Don't really know about Auburn, don't really know about some of the ones up there. But if you're in Alabama and you're going to one of those universities, it's best to, while you're currently doing your bachelor's, is go ahead and start asking around, like ask people who have either worked for certain companies or are currently working for other companies, and go ahead and get that like hands-on experience, because there's a lot of stuff that you won't learn in just the academic realm that you can learn in CRM.
Yeah, Kraus and I actually talked about this, that there is a huge gap in archaeology in the classroom opposed to archaeology or cultural resource management out actually in the real world.
Mm-hmm. And that is true. I feel like today it might be a little better than it was. And the reason I speak for that is that, or I can speak to that, is that when I was at State, I mean, of course, I had known several people who were either in CRM or were doing CRM, but I really didn't catch on to it until I was close to the end of my bachelor degree. So it really wasn't until I kind of started talking to some people and I was like, I don't really know what I want to do after this. And I was like, because I didn't want to go straight to grad school, because honestly, just for me, resources and stuff were just currently not there for me. So I really needed to jump in and just work and just make some money. And, I probably would have been even better off if I would have been looking at that before I had graduated. But I got lucky. I got real lucky because I started talking to some people and they were like, hey, there's a guy who used to go to school here. He works for this great company. Why don't you go talk to him? I looked out. They were working in Starkville. Went up, talked to him. His name's Mr. Rocco. Hey, Rocco, if you listen to this. He was a great guy. And I was just like, hey, man, looking for a job. About to graduate. Well, at the time I was finishing up my internship for the state medical examiner's office in Jackson. And he was like, all right, had me write up a CV and, looked at my references, and next thing you know, I got my job. So that really lucked out. So, like I said, just to reiterate that, like, go back, find people, start talking about it, especially if that's what you want to do.
So while doing CRM work, you and I talked about this before we started today. What skills do you think people should have before, during, and after they get started doing CRM work?
So I'll kind of lay it out. And this is just based off my 6 years of experience. Now, there are a lot more people that are way more qualified than I am to talk about some of this stuff. And I've really picked up on the guys and girls that have been in CRM for, they've been doing CRM work for like 10 years or 12 years or just a little longer than I have. So the first one I want to talk about is really just like basic, like physical conditioning. And it doesn't really have to be anything special. So just for like a short background, I also hold a strength and conditioning certification for Power Athlete, which is our little logo right here. I'm a certified Block 1 coach. So actually, my little side project is I train and host like personal training and personal classes for just people wanting to get in shape and stuff. And like a big part of about that is just having like, you don't have to be like some machine. You don't have to be like some lifter addict or like fitness addict or anything like that. But like having just some sort of like, and it doesn't even have to be exercise. It could be like maybe you did manual labor for a living. I know a ton of people that just did manual labor before doing this job, and it really paid off. If we speak to somebody like Jonah, Jonah was really solid with like landscaping and stuff like that, getting his hands dirty. And it could be anything, man. It could be like construction or, like I said, like landscaping, stuff like that. Another one is going to be like mental toughness and stability. And the reason, the thing with mental toughness that I talk about is that, and this, you worked with us, me and you've worked together. There's a level of like embracing the suck, of like really immersing yourself in like really horrific situations. And from 6 years of doing this, we've just had like some very bad experiences of being in the field. And if you've never really been exposed to that in any way, it's going to just break you. And I've seen it. I've seen people cry in the field. It's just it's not a fun situation. Because you got to deal with the elements, you got to deal with the heat, you got to deal with you got to deal with briars, and the environment is really your worst enemy, but you can't really do anything about it. So a big part is like really trying to develop some type of like what I just call mental toughness. And mental toughness,
other people call it alcoholism.
Well, that's that too. But as long as you can still get up and go to work, I guess that's okay.
Yeah. Moderation is the key.
Moderation. But really, the developing of something like mental toughness comes from just from a lot of like not quitting, and you can have really the largest academic background. I have this, I've worked with so-and-so, I have knowledge about all of this, but if you get thrown into an environment where it's like, hey, we got to get the work done, doesn't really matter what the weather looks like, doesn't matter what the environment looks like, if you don't have some level of that, you can't get the work done, and that's what matters.
A master's degree, an undergraduate degree, and this and that don't matter when you are in waist high water and you feel something swimming inside one of your shoes.
Or it's 110 plus degrees outside, and you brought one bottle of water, and you sit down on your screen and you just shed a couple of tears because that's really all you know how to do at that moment. Which I've seen before, and like, I mean, what did you expect? You know what I mean? So just, for people who are currently undergrads, if you've never done CRM, do something that's hard, like really hard, at least once. Like, go for a run, go for like a ruck march, go sit in like a sauna, immerse yourself in like cold water or something like that. I do this because I'm a psycho, but whatever. Like like do something that kind of is gonna, because here's the thing, if you get out and do CRM and you do like I am, you work from January to December, from hot to cold, everything in between, it's going to be bad. And the only way to do that is to acknowledge that it's going to be bad and figure out a way to like mentally prepare yourself for how bad it's going to be.
So one thing that I didn't think this would actually come in handy for anything, my sister used to give me gifts of cryotherapy. That's where you get in something like a tanning bed, except it is sub-freezing. And honestly, the cold does not bother me anymore after that.
No, not
like
at all.
I don't
you
feel
would
it
be
in
so
the
impressed.
least.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
There is nothing like being in a freezing cold box and realizing, wow, this is going to help me at some point in the future.
That's true. Yep. And you know, another one, the next one I'll really point on is just preparation. And all of those things that I talked about go into preparation as well. But preparation, not only for like your physical shape and your mental shape, really both of those can be kind of combined, because the physical is going to help with the mental, is really being able to like control your emotions. Like when you're in a terrible situation, like if you get stuck, like if you fall, or if you like get cold, you get super hot, like you can't freak out. You got to be able to control your emotions in terrible situations like that. But another big thing with preparation is gear, and the like the stuff that you carry with you. Now, I'm not saying you got to pack up like some crazy survivalist,
No.
but a lot of guys that I've been with, that have been doing this for a very long time, I mean, they kind of prepare similar to what you would see with like a survivalist. And that's a safety measure, is like, have a good backpack. Pays off to have a really nice backpack, like one that
I still have mine. It is
Oh,
still
there you go,
covered
man.
in red clay stains, and it is like my Super Bowl jersey.
You should put that in a frame. You know
I
how much
might.
suck this saw?
Hey, I
But
still carry this to class and stuff with me, and people are like, okay, he's obviously a serial killer or something because there's red clay on his
you
back.
just got red clay. You've been burying somebody out there.
So what you want to pack depends on the season. I know that, but what is the must-haves when you're going out in the field, irregardless of the season?
Oh man, that's a good question, actually. I kind of prepare a little bit more than others, and that's just because I like having I like eating like good hot food, like an actual meal. I don't, like a lot of people can get by with just eating like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and ham sandwiches and stuff like that. But I don't know. To me,
Stop judging me on what I eat for lunch, all right?
I judge everybody. Well, everyone judges me because I end up bringing like a full course meal out in the field. But
yeah, I've seen you eat an entire chicken while sitting in the field, and I think it was
I brought a whole chicken one time.
Yeah, and it was either Jonah or Kraus said that they saw you eat a full rack of ribs.
There was one day I brought like 8 ribs, and I was just like, man, I was like, this was actually way too much. But like have like I said, have a good backpack. Always pays off. Have something that you can carry stuff with, carry a lot of stuff with if need be, but also have one that is like feels good. Like it sucks if you put a bunch of crap in your backpack and all of a sudden you're walking around like this all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and towards the end of the day, your backpack starts to get really heavy if you're carrying a bunch of stuff with you.
Yeah. Or it gets lighter because you drank all your water.
Yeah, that too.
So good backpack. I would have just a good lunch bag. I would invest in something like a thermos, like a nice thermos, like a big food one. Because like there's nothing better to me than like having a bad day. You pop open this thermos, it's got nice hot food in it. It'll stay hot for a good period of time. I carry one with me. I think it's a plus. Another one would be try to avoid carrying like so many water bottles, because it really just turns into like a big mess. Camelbacks are okay, but the problem with camelbacks is that in certain seasons they don't really work that well. So they can freeze, they can bust. I've seen that happen before. They can kind of get moldy and stuff like that. So they kind of just become more of a hassle than a plus. I mean, they're great because you can just be like like right there, but something like a couple of good, like really good water bottles, stuff like Nalgene's or a Hydro Flask, something to if it's super hot outside, you need something to keep your uh, water really cold. But you also, if it's super cold outside, or super hot, I mean earlier, but if it's super cold outside, you want to have something to keep your water actually from freezing. Because I've actually had that happen too. It's
Really?
like it's so freaking cold out there that your water freezes. I've had it happen before. But yeah, and so as far as like food and all that kind of stuff, food and water, obviously like the most basic things, having because you don't really know what can happen out there. I've been in some situations where we were real deep in the woods and it kind of turns into a bit of a mess. Like, all of a sudden you're like 3 or 4 miles away from a truck. You're away from people's homes. You're like way deep in the woods. So being prepared slightly for situations like that, who knows, man? Like you could get lost. We've had that happen before. People get
Yeah,
lost.
I remember the first day we were out on that project and nobody actually knew what direction we were supposed to be going. And I just wandered around in the woods for an hour.
Well, I mean, one of our good buddies, Brent, I mean, his first day on or first week on the job, at least, he got lost, and it was actually kind of scary. I mean, it was funny, but it's kind of scary because we were like, "Where are you at?" And he's like, "Sitting on my screen." Like, where? He's like, "I don't know, just sitting on my screen." So we had to go find him. But and while that's funny, but there are situations where that could happen. So
Yeah.
having stuff like that. So obviously, besides food and water, having good things to like, carry food and water in. Obviously, invest in a good compass. Good compass. I mean, I have my watch, so like one of these bad boys is another good investment. Something like this is like a nice Garmin, so it's like, if I do get lost, I got a little GPS position thing on here. If that happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
and
you
then
can't always count on your phone to have a signal on it while you're out in the field.
right. So don't always focus on or don't always think about like just having your phone. I mean, your phone is obviously great, but there's going to be situations where you're not going to have cell service for hours, and that can happen. Then past that, this is more like additional stuff instead of like more what I would say like required stuff is like having something like I don't really like carrying like a big machete because sometimes it can kind of, in some situations you might need a machete. But in a lot of situations, it's just going to be a big hassle. So something like a machete or like I carry like a small hatchet with me in case you get in a sticky situation where you're kind of in some dense brush or trees where you can get, you could get, I've seen people actually get stuck, in some situations and it gets a little scary, especially by yourself. So anything like always having like some type of field knife, something like that. Carabiners with some type of paracord or something, because you never know, man. You could be in the woods, you could trip and fall, and you could, we've had situations where we do transmission lines where they cut, and it's like, to me, I think it's the craziest thing ever. They'll cut things that are like this, and it's literally just a booby trap. I mean, you trip and fall. It could be, it could be your last day on Earth. I don't know, but there could be situations where things could be dangerous, and you need to be prepared for those certain things too. So, like past that, having don't always, look to just the company having first aid kits, which they should. It's an OSHA violation if you do not. But having some type of like mild medical gear with you, whether it's like Band-Aids, Neosporin, wrap, anything like that, because you really never know. Like if you trip and fall and something cuts your leg open, you need to be able to at least bandage yourself up so you can get back.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about this one, but super glue works also.
Yep, super glue or yeah, super glue, and then like heavy pads, like gauze pads, something like that. And then as far as like a very small additional thing, well, it's not small, but like an additional thing is, if you got the time and you got the money, it probably wouldn't hurt for one of you to be CPR certified, first aid certified. Going and getting that is a very additional thing, and it could probably save somebody's life.
Yeah, there is nothing like being out in the field by yourself and realizing you just fell 2 feet into a ditch while other people saw you do it, and you're like, okay, this is how people are going to remember me.
I mean, we all slip and fall, man. I've done it plenty of times. I've injured myself. I've seen some pretty severe injuries that have happened as well. But yeah, it's good as far as preparation.
Yeah. So, what other skills do you think would benefit people to have while they're out in the jungles of Alabama or the
Yeah,
Southeast?
I mean,
It is
yeah,
the jungle in some places here. It
it
is.
really is. Yeah. As far as like all the skills that you definitely need to learn, which is as far as archaeological skills you need to learn, which is troweling, being able to, properly dig units, being able to properly dig shovel tests, or which obviously, if you go to any sort of survey field school, they should obviously teach you all that. But if not, then a big one is learning the ways of the company you're going to work for, because so many companies to do different things, and I have a motto that I like to go by because I've worked for so many other companies is called it is just empty your cup. Okay, so like don't show up thinking you got a full glass of information. Like if you work for a new company, they're going to have different ways they want to do things. So yeah, they're going to look to you because maybe you have like some more experience in CRM, but I've worked for companies that did a lot of different things than the company I work for now. And a good rule of thumb is like don't just rely on just the experience that you have, but also ask how they want things done. So that's a good one too. Um, and then as far as like basic trowel work, so I always have like good trowels. That's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. Because some companies require you to do what we call witness tests. So you square tests, and they got to look nice and pretty and stuff. So, and for like photos and stuff, or if you're digging units, or if you're working, or you get the luxury of working on a big phase 3, is being able to learn those skills. And some of those aren't really stuff that are like super teachable. It's just kind of some stuff you got to learn over time to be really good at like cleaning features and stuff like that. Um, some other stuff would be kind of the tech side of things. So if you're lucky enough to have a program like a archaeology program at a university, and they have like technology that they're using, learn how to use that stuff. Learn how to use a TopCon or a Trimble, or like we use tablets, and we use ArcPad or ArcGIS. But if you have the opportunity to do that, go ahead and learn those skills because they really will pay off when you get out of the field. When I first started, I didn't know anything about tech. I get tossed this Trimble thing, and I was like, "What the hell is this? I don't know what this is." Like, I did everything on paper. I load everything on paper, And some companies still use paper. No big deal, but it pays off in the end to learn how to use technology.
That is one thing that I recommend you take in the field with you. You can actually get notebooks and pens that write in the rain and the elements. You will find those to be
Extremely helpful.
Yes, hilariously helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, so I guess I'll jump into some other like side things I wanted to talk about that I feel like would also be helpful skills, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
A big one that I've seen a little bit of a drop in, well, not really a drop, but just kind of a it hasn't really existed like super well in CRM, which I'll be honest, hierarchies of working in the private sector and probably even the academic sector are really no different than other sectors of different career paths. I know some archaeological people want to be like, "Oh, we're different." I'm like, no, you're not. You're not different. You're not. The hierarchy of working for a private business or working in an academic setting, regardless of what your back or whatever you're doing, it's no different. So a big thing for me that I think is super important, especially if even if you're just a grunt like I am, or if you run a company or you run crews or anything, is having and learning good leadership skills and qualities. That goes a immensely long way. And I can always I can refer back to some stuff I've learned from. If you guys know who Jocko Willink is, Jocko Willink was a former Navy SEAL. He is probably one of the foremost, like, number one guys right now when it comes to like leadership skills and qualities. And he takes what he learned, obviously his background in the military, and uses it for his company called Echelon Front, which really is like a great company that works on like leadership skills and qualities amongst like big corporate companies. And a lot of people have this funny idea that they think they know what the hierarchical aspects of leadership in the military are when they really don't. So I would definitely look up some of his books. He's got 3 books that I've read: Extreme Ownership, the Dichotomy of Leadership, and Leadership Skills and Tactics. I think that was the third one. All 3 of those are excellent books to dive in on about if you really want to learn more about displaying like good leadership skills. And even if you're just a field tech like I am, you still benefit from having these skills. But if you're leading crews, and this I've actually seen this a lot, is that you have a lot of people who go from straight from their bachelor's degree and they go into their master's, right? And in between, they had never done any sort of CRM work. Well, what happens is when they get done with their masters and then they come and they want to run crews, they want to do this. They never even develop the skills of just being like a field tech before they were given a position of leadership. And so what I think is a good thing that actually happens with the company that I've worked for is that they make those people actually do a lot of like basic field work stuff before they rise to the position of being able to run crews. Because a big thing is that if you don't know the experience and you don't know just like those basic tenets of being a leader, you're going to be a very piss poor crew chief. And there's nothing worse than having a person in a position of power over you that is not good at their job. Because guess what? That makes you not good at your job, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those skills start from the top to the bottom. So, but, really speaking on that, as far as like specifics go, just stuff like basic stuff you can kind of carry with you in the field without me having to like flip through those, couple books. Or if you want to, you can buy them on Amazon or whatever. Great books. And also like reaching outside of the realm of just archaeology, because I've always been a fan of what's called like a Renaissance man. And while I'm not like the best Renaissance man, but but I like to reach out of the field that I'm currently in and try to gain skills and strategies and tactics outside of just archaeology. So reach out of the field to understand leadership and skills, because let's be honest, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of poor leadership and stuff that is displayed in CRM sometimes. I know because I've worked for companies that were not good at all. We had terrible bosses, all the workers were terrible. I mean, I'm obviously not going to name any names, but in situations like that, it's not fun, especially when you're the one trying to just do your job correctly. But some basic skills, especially if you're a leader, is having compassion for your team. Like, you can't just look at everybody that you're working with as just another field tech. They're your team. If you take care of them, they'll take care of you. Like, that's a big thing that they talk about, like, especially in the military, is that if you're a leader, don't abuse your team. Don't do things that are going to cause, would be the correct term, I guess, distrust in your leadership, or just kind of like poor discourse amongst people.
It's called a mutiny.
A mutiny. And I've seen close to mutinies too many times. So, like, take care of your team, they'll take care of you. But if you're just a field tech, you can still apply those skills as well. So, like, making sure that your work, like, if you're just a field tech, making sure your work environment is a nice, I don't want to say safe space, because that's not really
There is no safe when you're out in the field. You and I both know
that. But if you go through terrible things, you build, and this, and like, other people I've known that have worked for me for a very long time, you do build a level of camaraderie, from being in really terrible situations.
Yeah, there is nothing like being up at the crack of dawn and singing Country Roads, Take Me Home with the 20 other people you're working with.
Yeah. Listen to all you people at other companies right now. You will never sing Take Me Home, Country Road with like 15 of us in the truck having a blast. That was the best morning ever.
That is us. We did that, and it was awesome, and it went downhill from that.
Exactly, but it would have been an even worse day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. All right.
All right, so you've been doing this for a while. You've been out there in the field from, it could be as early as like 7:00 in the morning to about 5:00 at night. How do you get yourself through the day? I know a lot of people, while we were out there in the field, listen to either like a playlist or a podcast out there. What do you do to help build up mental fortitude and not scream while you're out there in the field?
And I kind of do this just from day to day as well, is like, kind of make yourself a little schedule, and it doesn't have to be like super strict, but one thing Jocko talks about, Mr. Jocko Willing, who I refer to, talks about discipline equals freedom. So having a level of discipline, of being able to like kind of create a little schedule for yourself is always a good thing. It's I know a lot of people think that like having some type of like constraint, but having some type of structure, maybe trying to wake up at the same time. I have like a little ritual, obviously, I'll before I go to work every day, that kind of helps me, is like, I wake up fairly early. Like, I get up, like, if I have to be at work at 7, I'll wake up at like 5. And that's mainly because I'm not trying to give myself a situation of, uh-oh, I woke up at 6:45, I got to be there at 7. That's just gonna cause implosion after a while, because it's going to be so stressful as you continue to do that, and giving yourself only 15 minutes to wake up every day, before you got to jump out the door and hop in the work truck, and your hair's all messed up, you hadn't had any coffee, you hadn't had anything to eat, if you eat breakfast, but like, wake up a little early. You ain't even got to wake up as early as I do. Just throwing that out there. I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
I'm a crazy.
On projects, you learn very quickly who the morning people are and are not.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but if you do CRM, you're going to have to become what I call a farmer. Live like a farmer. All right? Which is go to bed early, wake up early. Ain't no way around it, because guess what? Unless it rains, you're going to be up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, having to go to work. I've worked for some companies where we had to start at 6 a.m. So you had to be up even before that, way before that. So getting in that mode, giving yourself a schedule, give yourself like a little ritual to do in the mornings. And it could be, because like, if the day's going to really suck, a good way to really start off your day is like, kind of relax a little bit, because it's going to suck. Embrace the suck. But do a little bit of reading, you can watch some TV, kind of de-stress a little bit. I don't mean to be all hoiky-doiky, but I mean, like, a lot of times I like to meditate in the morning. It just helps me kind of like calm through and just kind of prepare myself for the day. but also it's just like getting up. I make myself some coffee. I grab something to read real quick, kind of de-stress before I go out in the field. Get my bag prepped, get your clothes prepped, because you don't want to be running out the door pulling your pants up. It's a terrible thing, or throwing your socks on. So just be prepared in that way. Let's see. As far as like getting through the day, I mean, I really love like podcasts, and I love stuff, especially if you're just doing a survey like we did. It's really easy to just, as long as you're doing, as long as you're doing your work, and you're not getting like obviously too distracted. Something like listen to podcasts, you can listen to music, but also do it at the behest of your crew chief or whatever, because your crew chief might have different requirements. They may be like, yeah, you can do whatever. You can listen to music, but the way if I was running a crew, it was like, hey, you can listen to music, you can listen to podcasts, but don't have it be so distracting that if I like be like, hey, like I need you for something, that you're like, oh, like you don't know what you're doing. So I like podcasts. I like audiobooks. Audiobooks are great in the field. Um, Anything like that. And then when I come back, when I get done in the field, I usually, I go work out, come back, eat some food, de-stress, go to bed early.
Yeah, the de-stressing part and going to bed early are two things I would recommend also, because at the end of the day, your body is heavy and oftentimes broken.
Well, the funniest thing that always cracks me up is when people first start this job, and I've seen it with every new person. I even saw it with some of you guys when you guys started working. Is your first day out in the field, you come back and you're like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And like you eat a bunch of food, and what do? You pass out at like 5 o'clock if you get back at 4. You're like, I'm going straight to bed. So
No. What I did was I showered, scrubbed the dirt off of me because it does layer up after a little bit, and then I passed out.
There you go. Yeah, at least you shower. I've seen people who just not shower and they just go straight to bed.
Oh my God, that is.
Yeah, there's some gross people out there. There's also some strange and gross people in the field of archaeology. Just throwing that out there. There's some weird people out there. But
I mean, fans of this show have probably learned that there's some weird people out there.
I don't know if it'll get weird in the CRM, man. I don't know if it will. I've met some very strange, I'll just say strange individuals along this job.
Yeah, one thing you will learn, your definitions of words like strange and weird and painful, they change over time. Like, you'll cut your hand or something out in the field, and then a week later you sprain your ankle and you realize, that gaping cut on your hand isn't a high priority.
There you go.
Yeah.
But so what really all this comes down to, though, Dan, is what I just label as sustainability. And the reason I use that term is because if you're going to have to do this for a period of time, and even if you're like me, who's kind of doing this more as just like a career path, and I'm not super focused on the academic side of things. I'm more worried about obviously like just my current situation. But there's a level of sustainability that has to be thought about. Like it's a long road. It's a super, super long road. My mentor, Mr. John Welborn, who owns Power Athlete, he has a great quote. It's, some days you get a shovel, some days you get a spoon, but as long as you're moving a little dirt every day, you're moving towards your goal. And the reason I like that quote is that obviously that pertains a little bit more to the realm that I'm also in, which is kind of athletic performance and strength and conditioning, but it also pertains to the work life. Is you can't go at 110% for 4 days and think that this is going to be like a sustainable mode, because I've actually seen a lot of people, they get burnt out. Obviously with this job, it's real easy because you gotta drive a lot. a lot of travel is required, a lot of being away from your family is required, and being out in the field can just be brutal. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So that actually appeals to some people because they
It does.
realize, they don't like their family. I mean, they're like, okay, I would prefer.
Some people
to
don't
be
like
out.
their wife.
I haven't seen my wife in 3 months, and I'm perfectly fine with.
Or if you're a road junkie, there are a lot of people that do this job that they love that aspect of being traveling and everything. But the reason sustainability has to be at least discussed in your daily life is because I've just seen a lot of people, like, I'll be honest with you, man, our life expectancy as archaeologists is not very high. And it's just.
I've been out there in the field, and I realized, on one day, it started snowing first thing in the morning. I'm like, okay, if I die out here, I want people to know I died doing what I love, digging holes and making snide comments about my coworkers.
You did that very well.
Yes.
But the sustainability aspect is not just a really more of a look on like your overall like physical health, but also like your mental health. Like I've just seen it take so many tolls like on people like physically and mentally, and not having stuff like structure and stuff like that in your daily processes, or like just making kind of the wrong decisions, like when you're in the field and when you're out of the field. Like if you're in the field, there are just things that you can't do, as far as like things like being rude to your other coworkers, or being rude to your higher ups, which I've seen a lot of times. You just can't do stuff like that. You got to learn how to kind of play the game. You got to learn how to be a team member. You got to learn how to care for your teammates and help your bosses along the way too. But as far as like outside of the field, I've just seen a lot of people over time, they kind of choose to make like the wrong decisions, and we're none of us are perfect. I'm not trying to point out that I'm some like special angel by any means, but
no, we've met. I know.
All right, you wild man. But like, obviously, like de-stress is a big thing, but rest, R&R, rest and recovery, is a huge thing of taking those into priority, because if you kind of take priority of those things, they will not only lead to the next day being better, but the next week, the next month being better. Because sometimes when you're out there, all you got to do is survive. And if you can survive, you get your paycheck, you get to go home. And
that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen, is that paycheck.
Making that money.
Gigantic piles of money.
But if you want to make money, you want to continue on in this career path, or and stuff, you have to learn a level of sustainability, or you're just going to get burnt out. Either your body's going to fail you, or your mind's going to fail you. What we're trying to do, and what I actually try to do personally with a lot of people that I work with, is make sure that neither of those happen.
Well, we haven't had anybody die out in the field yet, so I guess whatever you're doing is working.
Well, since I don't have a position of power like a couple other people I do, or a couple other people I work with do, about the only thing that I can do is, try to keep morale high. Like I said, I'm not perfect, so some days I have my bad days, but probably the last thing I'll kind of touch on to me is I know I kind of spoke as of a serious manner earlier, and obviously some of the things I've talked about. But a big thing is, man, is like having a sense of humor. Like there's nothing worse than you get out in the field and somebody's just a stiff. And this goes for your other coworkers, and it also goes for leadership positions. If you're a good crew chief, like I said, be good to your crew, they'll be good to you. But if you're a coworker, don't be rude or disheartening or anybody to your other coworkers. Your thing of being a good leader in the field doesn't just have to be your position on a sheet of paper. You know, being a good leader in the field can just come from you as a normal field tech, and that's, you know, making sure your crew is okay, making sure that people are trying to have fun or having a good sense of humor, you know, in the field. Like stuff like that goes a long way. Like I've worked for companies where nobody had a sense of humor, and it was terrible.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's like loosen up, guys. Like, and then like the current company I work for, you know, yeah, we do terrible things. Like just yesterday, I was slaving through like a swamp with like briars and everything. But like, I come up with my other coworkers, we at least try to make like, we know it sucks, but like we're trying to make jokes, we're trying to get ourselves through the day, because any sort of like heavy negativity like that is just worse than your other coworkers.
Yeah. So, you know, I've experienced some things like that. I remember the first day I was out there, I heard somebody scream out, "My God, son." And I'm like, oh my God, somebody's getting fired on day one. And I didn't realize somebody was giving somebody crap about something.
Well, and another thing too is, man, is like, so before I did this, I actually did some construction. When I was like 16, 17, my dad, or not my dad, my granddad actually owns a small contracting firm, and he helps build houses and stuff like that. And, you know, that was like my job growing up. And I worked with a lot of like just hard nosed dudes. I worked with guys that served prison time, you know, like, I worked with all those guys. And the one thing I noticed was, though, is that like as hard and tough as these guys were, always had a sense of humor. They're always cracking jokes. They're always having fun, whether it was roofing or, you know, putting in drywall, or like, you know, pressure washing stuff, you know, painting. Doesn't matter, man. You know, they were goofing off. They were having a lot of fun, and that was just kind of to get them through their day. And I know never really got to talk about my experience as being um, a forensic anthropology intern at the state medical examiner's office in Jackson, Mississippi. But what as crazy as that job was, and working with medical examiners and forensic investigators and stuff, the one thing I always noticed was just they always had a great sense of humor, you know, because it's a rough job to deal with stuff like that. And, you know, doesn't do any different, or nothing any different than anthropology or archaeology in general. So.
Well, we're going to wrap this episode up. Matt, any last minute words of advice, suggestions? My God, son, what do you got for me?
You got to create a whole persona of people that have wrestling names, and you got to create like these scenarios.
Oh my God. For those of you who haven't worked with us before, we started out fast food wrestling names. Like I was known as McDan, like the McRib sandwich. I was there for a limited time, but while I was there, it was good and people wanted it.
I still laugh about that day when you were back in the truck. It's like, I gotta get to a PTO meeting for my I know nobody would get that joke, but if you were there, you would. So good.
I gotta get to my daughter's piano recital.
But yeah, man, on a final note, really, I really hope, I know a lot of this stuff was probably like common sense to a lot of people, but I really hope that some of the stuff that I laid out helps you in your career and helps create a level of sustainability in your life, and being able to make this a long lasting healthy career, because you don't want to get burnout. You don't really want to try to make poor decisions. You want to try each day to just do a little more than you did yesterday, especially if you're a field tech. And you know, take those leadership skills and qualities, you know, reach outside of the field of archaeology. Archaeology doesn't just have to teach you everything, you know, like learn good people skills, you know, learn how to work with people in a severe work environment when it comes to the heat and, you know, the environmental stressors and stuff like that. And learn as much as you can as an undergrad, because it'll pay off when you do get a job. Because the one thing I'll tell you, the last thing I'll really reiterate with this is that no one is coming to help you. I know that sounds kind of negative, but when it comes to CRM, like you just have to be the best that you can be and focus on trying to be better at your job each day, because there are a lot of companies that do not care about you. I know that sounds terrible. I know a lot of companies will probably be like, but they don't. They it's just the way of business as well. So, I think if you show up on time, if you do work, do really good work, um, you try to be as don't be like competitive, but also don't be kind of like don't be a
Just don't be a douche. Don't be a douche.
I was actually going to reiterate or talk about like, don't be like just a man in the crowd or a person in the crowd or a woman in the crowd. Is like, don't just go along with the flow. Do your work good. Do what your company asks. Help your bosses out if need be. Help your coworkers out, and just try to have a good time. I know I know it's weird for me to say that, but like, make friends with your coworkers, because just being like I've seen a lot of people who just they want to be just a shovel bum, and they never really want to like make and create relationships with their coworkers or bosses or something like that. And I'm not saying you got to be friends with everybody, but being a friendly person and being enjoyable to be around goes a long way as well, because guess what, man? Everybody in CRM knows everybody.
Yeah, that's one reason, I wanted to start this show, is because with COVID-19 going on, it kind of breaks us all apart when, we're a very small community here in Alabama, and we want to get it back together with my hand gestures.
I like it, dude.
Put it back together.
Shove it together. No.
Yeah.
but yeah, just where was I going with it? It's just, and not only in the state of Alabama, but on a statewide scale. I mean, I've met people who know people in like New Hampshire and like stuff like that. Like, it just, the world of CRM is so small relative to other businesses and stuff. But like, yeah, like make a good name for yourself. Be nice,
or at least a nickname for yourself. I have like 3, and I can't put any of those on my resume. So
I wish you could. I mean, I would take you.
No one is going to hire somebody called D Nasty. I mean, unless it's like a strip club, or unless it's like a strip club or a DJ syndicate or something like that. No one is going to hire somebody with the nickname of D Nasty.
Well, I think that'll wrap it up for me, man. I think if I go any longer, I'm just going to start rambling, going crazy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you so much. And anybody that's listening, if you have like any like additional questions or anything, please reach out. I mean, I'm on social media and stuff like that. And if you know me personally, if you ever got any questions, just give me a call, give me a call.
So. Yeah, that's great advice. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thank you, Dan.